I don't want to speak as if I'm know exactly how that executive order has been working, because quite frankly, I'm not exactly certain how it works. But I do know that when we have those types of policies in place, people do whatever they can to either comply or get around it, and that becomes problematic. I think that in the executive order in the construction industry or real estate development industry, that does affect me to some extent, or other people in the industry that are doing the same thing when they want to do business with the city of Detroit, say develop the land that's owned by the city of Detroit. I think you have to be careful with something like that. I think people should be free to cut the type of deal that they want to cut in terms of being able to do business in the city of Detroit. As a developer in Detroit, I've had to enter into partnerships with folks who become part of my entity on a partnership basis. Now the question is, and they may bring more financial to the table than I might bring to the table. So the question is, would that disqualify me under the executive order? I'm not certain. But I think going forward, given what we have to do, we have to look at how that works for the city of Detroit. I would rather provide incentives for people to do business with folks in the city of Detroit as opposed to providing a penalty. Is there a way we can design a policy, an executive order, if you will, whatever the case may be, that says, if you do this, these are the benefits that will come to you from the city of Detroit, as opposed to, if you don't, you can't get the contract. That saying that it's easier to get bees with the honey than it is vinegar. I think that we can encourage folks to say hire Detroiters, to do business with other contractors who are located in the city of Detroit, if we provide incentives for them to do so, as opposed to looking at the penalty phase or the phase that says you can't do business unless. My take on privatization is similar to my earlier response about non-essential city services. Let's take the golf course example again, which is what we already do. I believe the company is American Golf, although they're looking at that contract again. That's a non-essential city service, or a city asset, if you will, that provides a recreational service. We can, on the management side, hire folks, negotiate, enter into contracts with folks to manage those types of assets for us. Folks who know what they're doing, for the most part, say the golf course. We'll hopefully make money because we'll lease it to them, or we'll charge them a management fee every year. And that's an area of privatization. So if it's a non-essential asset, where we can bring in the private sector and hopefully Detroit companies located and situated in Detroit, or if not then in the region, and then we can hire them to manage those non-essential assets. I would not privatize any essential assets, but I think there are opportunities for us to regulate industries that might be supplementing essential services. So if a person wants to come in and provide additional transportation services, for instance, from the private sector, we can do a lot of things there without taking away the union jobs, without taking away city workers' jobs. So I think there could be some partnerships created there, but I would not look at. I mean, it would be silly. The most extreme example would be privatizing public safety. Of course, we wouldn't privatize public safety because we've got all kinds of problems with that. We don't want to make that a profit industry. But where we can, non-essential, non-core services, I think it's fair for us to start talking about privatizing, or at least partnering with folks to manage those types of assets. I have to think about that in terms of what my knowledge is about what's being privatized out. I'm not crazy about, as a lawyer, I'm not crazy about privatizing city legal work for a lot of reasons. I think it costs us a lot of money, and I think in our recent past has shown us that outsourcing legal, at least some parts of legal, is not the greatest idea. I will try to keep as much legal in-house as possible. I think if we can control that a little bit better. Mayor Bing is talking about privatizing payroll. He's also talking about privatizing tax collections or debt collections. I'm not certain about payroll, but I think it might be in sort of reverse of your question. I think it might be a good idea for us to privatize something like tax collection. We don't do a good job. There's a lot of folks out there not paying taxes that should be paying taxes. And quite frankly, our current law department and our current debt collection services is not doing the job. And I think we could bring in a lot more income if we had somebody collecting taxes from the debt collection side, as long as we've got the proper controls in place and meets the expectations of folks in terms of bringing in that revenue. Well, again, as a developer, the primary way that I think we need to be looking at generating revenue for the city is to find ways to put as much property back on the tax rolls as possible. It is something that doesn't affect you and I as current residents, because my taxes are not going to go up, your taxes are not going to go up, and if we can convince folks to come back to the city, to move into the city, we're putting current property that's not generating any income tax, any property tax for the city at all, to be back on the tax roll. And in fact, it benefits everybody. It benefits you as a resident because you've got a blighted house next to it, you have vacant land next to you, and it's built up, it benefits you. And it also benefits the city's coffers in terms of bringing more revenue to the city. So that's the primary way. Cities generally have two main revenue sources. That's state revenue sharing and property taxes. And our property taxes are well below what they were in the past, and severely below. And so our taxes have to come up to make up for that. We suffer in city services because we can't afford to pay it. And the other part about it is the more property that we can put back on the tax roll, eventually you would hope that our taxes would go down because we got more folks to share in that burden. So that's the primary way that I would look to adopt policies that encourage development, that encourage neighborhood development so that people can come back to the city of Detroit, as well as current residents and neighbors staying in the city of Detroit.